I pulled up to Melissa Parker's brand new house in suburban Ohio with a gift basket balanced in my hands, the cellophane crackling softly in the cold air. I had arranged every item myself: homemade candles, fresh coffee beans, a little embroidered dish towel I stitched late into the night. But the moment I saw the long line of cars, the upbeat music spilling from the backyard, and guests laughing across the lawn, something in my chest tightened. I suddenly felt like I'd intruded on a party that wasn't meant for me. I walked toward the porch, rehearsing a warm smile, but before I could reach the door, Diane stepped in front of me. Melissa's sister-in-law always had a way of twisting her mouth into a smile that felt like a warning. She planted herself firmly between me and the entrance. "Oh, you weren't actually invited, Auntie Linda," she said loudly, projecting her voice so half the porch could hear. "This was supposed to be close family only." Heat rushed to my cheeks. Guests turned to stare, heads tilting, eyes running over me like I'd wandered in from the wrong neighborhood. My grip tightened around the basket as if holding it could keep my dignity from slipping through my fingers. Melissa appeared behind her, her expression practiced and airy. She gave me a half wave, the kind you give a stranger you vaguely recognize, not the woman who once helped raise her. "We figured you'd be busy, Auntie," she said, her voice sweet but cutting. "You know, older people don't really enjoy these events." A murmur rippled behind me. Then a sharp whisper. "Why is she even here?" I swallowed hard and tried to steady my voice, but nothing came out. All I could do was force a polite smile as Melissa gently pulled the door shut, leaving me standing alone on the porch. The lock clicked. The music inside grew louder, and the gift basket in my hands suddenly felt foolish. A teenager by the driveway held up his phone, smirking as he filmed me. When our eyes met, he laughed quietly, the kind of laugh that sticks to your skin long after the sound is gone. My hands trembled. That old familiar ache rose inside me, being dismissed, minimized, treated like an inconvenient relic someone forgot to hide before guests arrived. I set the basket down carefully at the door, like placing a piece of myself I didn't want to carry anymore. Then I walked back to my car, each step heavier than the last. I shut the door, gripped the steering wheel, and tried to breathe past the sting spreading across my chest. As I pulled away, I heard their laughter spill into the street, bright, careless, echoing through the open windows. And all I could think was how many times in my life I had heard that same laugh, that same dismissal, that same message. "You don't belong here." But they had no idea, absolutely no idea, what they had just awakened in me. I pulled into my quiet driveway and let the engine idle, the soft vibration humming beneath my hands. But my mind wasn't in the present. It spun backward, unraveling years of small cuts, little exclusions that had shaped my entire life without me realizing it. The porch light flickered against the windshield as if urging me to step out. But I couldn't. I just sat there, breathing through memories I'd spent decades pushing aside. Growing up in rural Minnesota, I had been the eldest daughter, the dependable one, the patch that held the family quilt together. Everyone leaned on me, but no one ever looked closely enough to see the strain. My father used to say with pride, "Linda can handle anything." What he really meant was, nobody needed to ask how I felt, because I'd just carry it, quietly, invisibly. I thought of Melissa, the same girl whose door had just shut in my face. When her parents struggled financially, I didn't hesitate. I paid her tuition, I covered her rent, I bought her groceries, I worked extra shifts, clipped coupons, skipped vacations, all so she could have a future she never once thanked me for. I remembered sitting alone at her graduation ceremony, surrounded by strangers celebrating loudly, while she clung to her friends and barely glanced in my direction. I had waited for her to come thank me, hug me, acknowledge me, but she never did. I was just the support beam she leaned on and forgot existed. And then there was Mark, my ex-husband. He specialized in slow destruction. He mocked my dreams, called me too soft to succeed, laughed when I mentioned starting my own business, For years, I swallowed every insult, every comment meant to shrink me, until the day he packed his things and left for a younger coworker, telling me I should focus on simpler things. The humiliation at the housewarming wasn't new. It was an echo, a sharp revival of every moment in my life when someone told me directly or indirectly that I didn't belong, that I was useful but never valued, needed but never respected, present but never important. Sitting in my driveway, I felt the weight of it. Decades spent trying to earn a seat at tables that were never built for me. Decades of giving, hoping someone would finally say, "Stay, you matter." My therapist's voice surfaced from a session months ago. When will you fight for yourself the way you fight for everyone else? Tonight, that question didn't feel like guidance. It felt like a prophecy that had finally chosen its moment. The ache in my chest slowly sharpened into something colder, clearer, like ice turning into glass. I realized I wasn't hurt anymore. I was awakened. I heard Melissa's voice again, dripping with dismissal. Older people don't really enjoy these events. She said it as if I were some outdated appliance taking up space. She spoke to me like I had no history, no backbone, no fire, like she truly believed I would just walk away and remain forgotten. But she had no idea who she was speaking to. She had no idea what a lifetime of being underestimated had created inside me. What kind of resolve forms when someone is pushed past every limit of patience and dignity? And for the first time in years, something inside me rose, not loud, not emotional, but steady, controlled, calculated, a calm, strategic readiness. I switched off the engine, opened the car door, and stepped into the night. No longer the background character in their story, but the woman finally ready to write her own. 2 days later, as I drove past Melissa's street, something bright caught my eye. A tall, crisp, lot for sale sign staked into the empty property right next to her brand new house. I slowed the car, staring at the open land, the unbroken soil, the perfect blank canvas. And in that quiet moment, a slow, deliberate smile curled across my lips. A plan formed, clean, legal, devastating in its elegance, a plan they would never see coming. I pulled out my phone and dialed the number on the sign. "Tara Williams speaking," a warm voice answered. "Hi, Tara," I said, steady and composed. "I'd like to schedule a walkthrough within the hour." She agreed instantly. When Tara met me at the site, the breeze carried the smell of fresh earth. For the first time in months, I felt a firmness beneath my words. "I want this lot," I told her, "and I want escrow opened today." Her eyebrows lifted in pleasant surprise. "Are you sure? It's a big commitment." "I've never been more sure," I replied. I utilized everything I had, my savings, the excellent credit I'd built through years of discipline, and the equity from selling my old home. Tara worked fast, but I worked faster. Within 48 hours, my offer was not just accepted, it was chosen above all others, higher than anyone expected, high enough to end the competition before it began. The land was mine. A day later, while I walked the property line, Melissa's husband Ryan spotted me from their driveway. He raised a hand awkwardly, confusion tightening his expression. "Oh, hey, Linda. What brings you out here?" he called out. I just smiled and waved back. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" He nodded slowly, unsettled, watching me longer than necessary. I could feel the unease spreading through their home like a quiet draft. At Sunday brunch, Melissa tried to play it cool as she cut into her pancakes. "You know," she said lightly, "we really value our privacy in the new neighborhood." I took a sip of my coffee, met her eyes, and said, "Privacy is so important, especially when you don't know who might move next door." Her fork froze midair, her face drained of color. By evening, the rumors were everywhere. Why is Linda interested in that land? Is she moving? Is something going on? Diane sniffed around online, digging through property forums and county listings, but I had kept every piece of paperwork confidential. No trail, no hint, no answers. Whenever someone asked, I offered nothing but a small, serene smile. Let them choke on their own speculation. Behind the scenes, I met with contractors and landscape designers. I walked the lot with a seasoned architect named Ethan Ross, a man who knew how to turn intention into structure. Together, we drafted it, the real heart of my plan. The blueprints unfurled across his table revealed a modern two-story sanctuary built higher than Melissa's house, with an elevated balcony overlooking her entire backyard. Not an act of pettiness, an act of poetry. They wanted me out of sight. They wanted me erased, minimized, dismissed. But now they would wake up every morning and see me. Now they would feel my presence in every corner of their perfect little world. They wanted me gone. So I chose to become impossible to ignore. One evening, my phone rings, sharp and urgent. Tara's name flashes on the screen. "Oh, Linda," she breathes. "The seller's attorney needs confirmation. Melissa's family is trying to interfere with the sale." For a moment, everything inside me goes still. Not panicked, focused. My heartbeat slows into something steady, controlled. This isn't a setback. This is the moment I've been waiting for. I grab my folder of documents, every paper, every signature, every proof of who I really am, and drive straight to the attorney's office. The night air feels electric, like the universe is finally shifting in my direction. Inside, the attorney adjusts his glasses and clears his throat. "Mrs. Carson, I need to inform you. Melissa contacted us. She claimed you weren't mentally stable enough to handle a purchase of this size." The words should have shattered me. But instead, they sharpened something deep, something old and buried, pain turning into precision. I slide the folder across his polished desk with a calmness I didn't know I possessed. Financial records. Investment portfolio. VITA pre-approval letter. Tax returns. Proof of capacity, discipline, and dignity. He flips through them, page after page, and his expression transforms, from polite skepticism to outright respect. "Miss Carson," he says finally, voice steady, "you're more than qualified." That name, Ms. Carson, lands on me like armor. Not the fragile woman they painted me to be, not the outsider begging to be included. A woman standing on her own ground. On the drive home, my phone rings again. Ethan, the architect. "Linda," he says, excitement in his tone, "I revised the plans. You're going to love this." Added a rooftop terrace facing Melissa's house. Perfect view. Maximum visibility. A chill runs through me. Not from revenge, not from cruelty, but from awakening. This is the first time in years I'm standing up for myself with strategy, with intention, with truth. This isn't about hurting them. It's about reclaiming every inch of dignity they ever tried to strip from me. Construction starts the next week. The first roar of machinery cuts through the morning air, vibrating straight into Melissa's backyard. I'm standing on the edge of my new property, watching the future rise from the soil they said I didn't deserve. My phone buzzes relentlessly. "Why are you doing this? Can we talk?" This feels intentional. I stare at the messages, feeling nothing but a clean, cold clarity. I type nothing. Silence becomes my answer. Silence becomes my revenge. And as the foundation takes shape, I realize something profound. I'm no longer the woman begging for a seat at their table. I'm building my own, stronger, higher, and right next door. 3 months later, the frame of my new home rises tall and unapologetic, casting a long, deliberate shadow across Melissa's patio. Every beam, every angle, every polished edge feels like a quiet declaration. I am here, and I'm not hiding anymore. At the neighborhood association meeting, Melissa stands up, voice trembling with irritation. "This construction is ruining my peace," she announces, loud enough for the entire room to hear. "What?" I rise slowly, smoothing my jacket, my heart steady as stone. "As the property owner," I say, calm and crisp, "I am fully within my rights." A ripple of gasps sweeps across the room. Eyes widen, chairs creak. Someone whispers, "She owns the lot?" Diane freezes, staring at me like she's looking at the past, at the woman she dismissed, belittled, shut out, except now I'm standing taller, clearer, unshakable. Melissa's face drains of color. You bought the lot? Why would you do that?" My answer comes without hesitation. "Because you made it very clear I wasn't welcome in your space, so I built my own." Silence drops over the room like a gavel. No one breathes, no one blinks. My words settle with the weight of a verdict. Undeniable, irreversible. And then the final blow hits, not from me, but from the world outside our feud. When construction finishes, a local newspaper runs a weekend feature titled "Women Rebuilding After Divorce," and my home, my story, my name are right there on the front page. A full spread, photos and all. I see Melissa outside later that week, her backyard barbecues now swallowed by the elegant silhouette of the house she tried to keep me away from. Her gatherings shrink, her laughter dies early, her guests keep glancing up at the structure towering beside them. Why? When my own housewarming night arrives, the street fills with cars. Warm light spills from every window. People drift through the rooms, admiring the woodwork, the open spaces, the gardens. Compliments float through the air like music. Across the street, Melissa grips her curtain, watching the party she once denied me, now 10 times larger, brighter, louder. As the sun sets, guests gather on my rooftop terrace. The view stretches over the neighborhood, golden light falling directly into Melissa's backyard. I lift my glass, but the toast is silent, spoken only inside my chest. This is what it feels like to stop shrinking for people who never valued you. By the end of the night, everyone knows exactly what happened. Not because I said a single word, but because Melissa can't stop telling the story for me. Weeks pass and the neighborhood folds around me with an ease I never expected. People drop by with homemade pies, warm smiles, and stories about how relieved they are to have a real neighbor on the block. I host Sunday dinners, nothing fancy, just open doors, good food, and a place where anyone can sit and breathe for a while. My home fills with laughter, clinking glasses, and the soft hum of people feeling welcome. More than once, I overhear someone say, "Her house has soul. You can feel it the moment you step inside." A quiet contrast to Melissa's pristine, personality-free showcase next door. Melissa and Ryan keep their heads down whenever they step outside, suddenly invisible in the neighborhood they once flaunted. One afternoon, Diane walks toward me at the mailbox, hesitating like she's forgotten how to speak to me. "Linda, I hope you're well," I say with a polite smile, then turn and walk away. Short, civil, untouchable. Soon, the whispers make their way back to me. Melissa feels overshadowed. The irony settles in beautifully. She wanted me small. Instead, she shrank herself. But when I hear it, I don't feel triumph. Just peace. A deep, steady, grounded peace I haven't felt in years. Building this house became something larger than revenge. It became a rebuilding of me. I hang the art Mark used to hate, bold strokes and wild colors screaming freedom across the walls. Each room holds pieces of my life I once apologized for. Every lamp, every plant, every soft chair is a choice I made without fear. One evening, I step onto the terrace, the breeze warm against my skin. Melissa's lights flicker on next door, her shadow crossing the window, and for the first time, there's no bitterness curling in my chest. There's gratitude. Gratitude for the shove that pushed me into creating something entirely my own. Gratitude for the storm that forced me to rebuild. Gratitude for the woman I became when their rejection stopped defining me. I look out over the neighborhood, over my home, over the life I carved from the remains of the one they mocked. I no longer want their approval. I no longer need their validation. I no longer wait for their invitation. I finally invited myself back into my own life. I sit on my rooftop terrace at dusk, warm amber light settling over the neighborhood like a soft reminder of everything I've survived. The camera is angled toward me, the skyline glowing just behind my shoulder, painting the scene in gold. I take a slow breath and recount it all. The humiliation on Melissa's porch, the quiet years of being overlooked, and the moment something inside me finally snapped into clarity. The night I chose myself over their comfort. Being underestimated, I say, my voice steady, is not a weakness. It's a weapon when you finally decide to use it. Flashbacks rise in soft flickers, the door closing in my face, the sharp lines of the blueprints, the roar of construction machinery, the flood of guests at my housewarming. Each image lands like a chapter in a story I never intended to write, but am grateful I lived through. Revenge isn't always loud, I continue. Sometimes it's architectural, legal, quietly, beautifully powerful. The screen shifts to visuals, neighbors laughing in my backyard, the newspaper headlines celebrating women rebuilding after heartbreak, my finished home glowing like a testament to resilience. You don't need permission to build the life you deserve, I say. Respect isn't something you beg for, it's something you demonstrate. I lean forward slightly, speaking to the camera like a friend sitting beside me. If someone ever makes you feel like you don't belong, don't fight for their table. A soft smile forms. Build your own and make it beautiful. The music swells, gentle and emotional. Fade to black as my voice closes the moment. If this story moved you, hit subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with someone who needs to reclaim their power. Final shot, me walking back into my home, doors open wide, lights warm, stepping into a life that finally fully belongs to me.